Well, I'm joined by James Yucel, External Affairs Manager for Priced Out. Tell us, James, what Priced Out is.
So Priced Out is Britain's largest campaign for making housing affordable again. And the way we do this, simply put, is to liberalise the planning system, as has been promised time and time again by politicians, and to build some more bloody houses.
Yeah, we're having trouble with language tonight with everybody, but that's all. We'll just about allow you that one. But we keep hearing this, don't we? We keep hearing of housing targets that have not been met. I've been told again and again that a series of EU directives on nitrates, for example, but other things, make it so difficult, so expensive to build new houses, particularly in country areas. Anything that's within what's seen as a catchment area of a river suddenly becomes very difficult, very expensive to build. And yes, of course, we want to have environmental concerns. Then you've got, local councils objecting. People call it NIMBYism, but hey, people don't want a huge number of houses built in their backyard. Is that why Sunak has now settled on brownfield development?
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with the Labour Party's recent talk about it. There's been a lot of talk from the Labour Party, and some of it really quite positive about, pledging to build more houses, about bulldozing, NIMBYs out of the way and actually getting some houses built. Now, obviously, we need to see the details and we need to see this actually happen before any of us can get a bit too ahead of ourselves. But yeah, I can safely say that the Conservative Party's increased volume has been a direct result of the Labour Party's.
I mean, one of the arguments that's been put is that post-1945, one of the solutions is obviously there was a huge amount of rebuilding needed to be, 30% of London's housing stock severely damaged, etc. Prefabs, of course, were actually quite effective. I'm not suggesting we go back to them, but they were quite effective. But the concept of new towns, the Crawleys, etc., leading on later on to the Milton Keyneses, is perhaps the answer to start thinking about new towns.
Sure, well, there's been a lot of talk about new towns.
Labour have talked about it. For
sure. A lot of Conservative MPs really like the idea as well. They looked at Poundbury as a really good example of that. And I think the type of houses that come out of Poundbury are beautiful. But the reality is what we need right now is we need more houses in cities, especially London and the South East. And because that's where the jobs are, that's where the infrastructure is. If you're going to start building towns in the middle of nowhere, but there's no jobs, no infrastructure, you'll find the people actually buying those houses don't really need them.
Veteran journalist Simon Jenkins has made an argument for some years that if you look at the density of housing in terms of how many people are living per square foot, that actually a vast amount of London was built as suburbia, giving people lots of room and quite big gardens, and that we have one of the lowest densities of population in London compared to our rival cities of whether it's Berlin or Paris or whatever it may be. Could the answer in London and some of our cities, and yes, Brownfield's part of it, is the answer to build up?
You know what, building up is absolutely fantastic. A lot of people are calling for mansards to be built, which are really, really fantastic things, because it keeps it in line with, community character and all that, which is, probably number one of the NIMBY excuses as why we shouldn't be building X, Y, and Z. And so, we really can build beautifully. And a really good example of that is Create Streets. And they're a group who will regularly put out, just fantastic ideas and fantastic plans of ways that we can build beautifully in London and the South East. And that's where we really need to be building. In London and the South East, those are the most unaffordable areas. And this is a supply and demand problem, as I'm sure you'll know.
Is any of it actually going to happen, James?
God, I wish I could give you a good answer. I wish I could give you a good answer, Nigel.
But I think you've actually given me the answer I wanted tonight. That Rishi Sunak has said, and thank you for joining me on the programme.